preparation is over. The workouts, the private runs, the countless hours in the gym. Everything has led to this moment. It's time for the biggest tournament of Elijah Ellis' life. 3 SSB Nationals. The best teams. The best players. The biggest stage of the summer. And pool play is officially underway. The tournament tipped off with a heavyweight matchup between BABC and Wildcat Select. Entering the event loaded with talent, BABC featured Arkansas commit Abdu Ture, West Virginia commit Amir Jenkins, and Marquette commit Alex Egbuonu. But despite the star power, it was Wildcat Select who struck first. Behind a dominant 20-point performance from AO, Wildcat Select opened the tournament with a statement, defeating BABC 61-51 and moving to 1-0 in pool play. For BABC, the loss immediately puts pressure on their next matchup. Another defeat could leave them staring at an 0-2 start and near the bottom of the standings with championship hopes hanging by a thread. Standing in their way? Elijah Ellis and New Heights NYC. After arriving in Rock Hill and completing one final tune-up in Charlotte, Elijah now turns his full attention to the court. The rankings, the recruiting talk, the predictions, none of it matters once the ball goes up. With only 3 pool play games to earn a spot in the championship, every possession matters. Every game matters. A win over BABC would immediately put New Heights in the championship conversation. A loss would make the road significantly harder. The stage is set. The crowd is filing in. And Elijah Ellis is moments away from making his 3 SSB Nationals debut. New Heights NYC versus BABC. With a shot at the 3 SSB National Championship on the line, Elijah Ellis and New Heights knew exactly what this tournament was going to require. Toughness, discipline, and the ability to respond when things weren't going your way. That challenge came immediately. BABC came out firing, jumping to an early 18-8 lead, and looking every bit like the talented group everyone expected them to be. For a moment, New Heights looked rattled. But only for a moment. After the slow start, New Heights made adjustments and never looked back. Even when the scoreboard suggested the game was close, they were in control. Possession after possession, stop after stop, New Heights slowly took over the game before eventually pulling away for a convincing 69-54 victory. Leading the way was Elijah Ellis. The class of 2026 guard stuffed the stat sheet with 21 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists while helping New Heights open pool play with a critical win. Temple commit Derek Morton Rivera provided major support with 18 points of his own as New Heights secured one of the biggest wins of their summer. But the box score only tells part of the story. After BABC's hot start, Elijah made a decision that changed the game. He wanted the matchup against 5-star prospect Abdu Ture, who is ranked number 15 in the country and 6 at his position. Recognizing that Ture was most comfortable attacking the basket and still developing as a perimeter shot creator, Elijah began sagging off him, crowding driving lanes, bumping him off actions, and constantly applying pressure. The strategy worked. As the game went on, frustration began to set in for the Arkansas commit. By the final buzzer, Ture was held to just 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists while shooting 4 for 14 from the field and 1 for 9 from 3. It was a defensive masterclass from Elijah, and one of the most impressive performances of the tournament so far. That doesn't mean the game was perfect. Offensively, Elijah had his own struggles. Despite finishing with 21 points, he shot just 10 for 25 from the field, committed 3 turnovers, and continued to show some inconsistency creating separation in the mid-range. The 3-point shot also remains a question mark after an 0 for 4 performance from deep. But great players find ways to impact winning even when they aren't at their best offensively. And that's exactly what Elijah did. When the shot wasn't falling, he rebounded. When BABC made a run, he defended. When New Heights needed leadership, he delivered. After a statement win over BABC, New Heights had one thing on its mind: revenge. Just weeks earlier, Wildcat Select had handed New Heights one of its toughest losses of the summer, winning by more than 20 points behind a huge performance from AO. For Elijah Ellis, that loss never sat right. After convincing his team to arrive in Rock Hill early and putting in extra work before the tournament, he finally got his chance at redemption. And from the opening tip, New Heights looked like a different team. Duke commit Darren Rippey led the charge with 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. Temple commit Derek Morton Rivera added 14 points. Uncommitted guard Trey Lewis chipped in 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. But once again, Elijah Ellis was the leader. The class of 2026 guard finished with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists as New Heights defeated Wildcat Select 87-83 and punched its ticket to the championship game. The performance wasn't perfect. Elijah continued to battle shooting inconsistencies, going 9-4-21 from the field, 0-4-2 from 3, and 6-4-13 from the free throw line.
With New Heights already locked into the championship game, Elijah used the off day to recover and recharge. After 2 physical games against the ABC and Wildcat Select, the focus shifted from competing to preparing for the stretch run of the tournament. After doing his recovery, in the morning Elijah met with an assistant coach from Virginia.
Elijah, first off, congratulations on the way you've been playing. We've been watching closely. Everybody sees the points and rebounds, but what stands out to us is how you impact winning. Your leadership, your toughness, the way your teammates respond to you, that's what catches our attention. We also like how you responded after the Wildcat Select loss. Coming to Rock Hill early, getting extra work in, helping lead your team to where it is now, that says a lot about who you are. Keep being aggressive. Keep competing. Keep leading. We want to continue building this relationship, and we'll be watching these next couple of games very closely. Good luck against Compton Magic.
Through 2 games, Elijah had become one of the biggest stories at 3 SSB Nationals. Averaging 22.5 points, 10 rebounds, and 4.5 assists, while leading New Heights to a 2-0 start, his stock was quickly rising among college coaches across the country. His shooting remained the biggest question mark, but coaches were beginning to focus on something else: winning. Entering the tournament ranked number 38 nationally, Elijah had climbed into the top 25 conversation, and now sat at number 24 in the class of 2026. Schools like Michigan, Kansas, Virginia, Ohio State, Vanderbilt, Gonzaga, and Louisville had all increased their interest, while Michigan State became the first new program to offer during the tournament. But for a few hours, recruiting took a back seat. With the team enjoying a rare off day, Elijah took some time to relax, clear his mind, and enjoy the moment, going to the pop-up shop Adidas had, and going to Charlotte to shop before turning his attention back to basketball. Because despite everything he had accomplished so far, the job wasn't finished. Compton Magic was next. With New Heights as a lock for the championship, they have one more game in front of them against potentially their toughest opponent all year in the Compton Magic, with 2 players in the top 7 of the 2026 class. Forwards Cam Williams, a Duke commit, and BYU commit Bruce Branch III. They also feature Colorado commit Ryder Portela and Nevada commit Cade Snyder, looking like the biggest challenge yet, with almost every scout and AAU Basketball Network watching in a packed gym. How will Elijah and New Heights respond? In front of a packed crowd and a building filled with college coaches, scouts, and recruiting analysts, New Heights faced their toughest challenge of the summer against the nationally loaded Compton Magic. The matchup featured 2 of the top players in the class of 2026, Duke commit Cam Williams and BYU commit Bruce Branch III, along with multiple Division I prospects throughout the roster. Early on, Elijah and Branch delivered on the hype. Branch scored 14 first-half points, while Elijah answered with 10 of his own, but Compton Magic's depth proved difficult to contain. By halftime, New Heights found themselves trailing 52-28. The second half started with Elijah refusing to let the game slip away quietly. He scored 6 quick points in the opening minutes and continued attacking throughout the half, trying to spark a comeback. Despite his efforts, Compton Magic never relinquished control and handed New Heights its first loss of the tournament, 91-66. Elijah finished with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists while shooting 10 for 24 from the field and a perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line. The three-point shot still wasn't there, but his mid-range shooting picked up against one of the most talented teams on the AU circuit. He proved he belonged on the floor with elite competition. The performance was enough to move Elijah up again in the national rankings. After entering the event ranked number 38, then going to 24 nationally, evaluators bumped him up to number 22 overall in the class of 2026. Scouts came away impressed with his toughness, versatility, rebounding, and ability to impact the game even when shots weren't falling consistently. The biggest development came off the court. What began as a tournament focused on proving himself has now turned into a recruiting battle among high-major programs. Following the performance against Compton Magic, Virginia extended an offer. Louisville followed shortly after. And Ohio State and Vanderbilt offer Elijah. 8:14 a.m. For the first time all tournament, there was no game. No scouting report taped to the hotel door. No assistant coach knocking at 7 a.m. No rush. Just silence. Elijah rolled over and looked at his phone. 43 notifications. Most of them recruiting. A few ranking graphics. Several messages from teammates. One text from Coach Byers. Breakfast at 9. Everybody. The championship was still 2 days away. 9:07 a.m. The New Heights team gathered in a private room downstairs. Players were laughing. Talking about the Compton game. Arguing over who had the worst turnover. The loss still stung. But the mood was better than expected. After breakfast, Coach Byers stood up. Enjoy the day. We'll get working later. Championship isn't today. Simple. 10:01 a.m. Back upstairs, Elijah finally opened the recruiting messages. There were a lot. Too many. Some were coaches. Some were assistants. Some were analysts. One stood out immediately. A missed call from Michigan. 10:23 a.m. The callback lasted almost 30 minutes. The conversation wasn't really about basketball. It was about fit. The Michigan staff talked about opportunity, development, the future. They discussed how Elijah's game could translate. When the call ended, the staff had made their decision. Michigan offered. Elijah sat quietly for a few seconds afterward. This wasn't just another offer. Michigan had always been one of the schools he paid attention to. 11:15 a.m. A few teammates convinced him to leave the hotel. Bad idea. The moment they walked into a nearby sports store, people recognized him. Not everyone, but enough. A few younger kids asked for pictures. One guy mentioned the ranking jump. Another asked where he was committing. Elijah laughed. He didn't know either. 12:32 p.m. Lunch. Mostly burgers. Mostly basketball talk. Mostly teammates trying to convince Elijah to commit somewhere ridiculous. Someone claimed he should pick San Diego State. Someone else said Kansas. Another said, just go wherever gives you the biggest NIL. That started a 20-minute argument. 1:47 p.m. Back at the hotel. Phone rings again. Illinois, offer. The conversation was shorter than Michigan's, but direct. The staff made it clear. You're a priority. The word priority stuck. A lot of schools say they like you. Not every school says priority. 2:40 p.m. The team headed to a side court for a light workout. Nothing serious. No full practice. Just movement. Shots. Conditioning. Recovery. Elijah spent almost half an hour working exclusively on catch-and-shoot threes. Everyone knew it. The coaches knew it. The scouts knew it. He knew it. The jumper was the swing skill. For 11 p.m., while stretching after the workout, his phone buzzed again. Notre Dame. Offer. Different vibe than Illinois. More relationship-based. More personal. Long conversation. Family came up. Development came up. Life after basketball came up. The Irish were serious. 5:37 p.m. The biggest surprise of the day wasn't an offer. It was Houston. One of their assistants had watched multiple games during the tournament. They wanted a conversation. Not tomorrow. Tonight. The Cougars had quietly become interested. Nobody saw that coming. 6:42 p.m. Dinner with family. No coaches. No teammates. Just family. For once the conversation wasn't entirely basketball. Until it became basketball again. Eventually someone asked,
"What offer surprised you most today?"
"Michigan." Immediate answer. 8:09 p.m. Back in the room. Elijah turned on tournament streams. Potential championship opponents were playing. Somewhere during the second game his phone buzzed. Kansas. Not an offer. A message. The Jayhawks wanted a longer sit-down the next day. That got his attention. Kansas doesn't do that for everyone. 9:46 p.m. The final surprise. A recruiting analyst updated his board. Elijah wasn't ranked number 22 anymore. Not officially. But the analyst projected him moving into the top 20 after the event. Five-star conversations had officially started. Not rankings. Conversations. Which was almost more important. 11:28 p.m. The day finally slowed down. The hotel was quiet. The phone wasn't. Texts still coming in. Coaches still checking in. Recruiting still moving. But tomorrow was another day. Another day before the championship. Another day before New Heights knew who they would play. And another day where Elijah Ellis was becoming harder and harder for college basketball to ignore. Day 2. The day before the championship. 7:32 a.m. Elijah woke up before his alarm. For a second, he forgot where he was. Then he saw the tournament wristband on the nightstand. Championship tomorrow. Still didn't know the opponent. Recruitment exploding. Phone already buzzing. The normal stuff. He grabbed it. 3 texts from teammates. 1 from Coach Byers. 7 recruiting messages. And 1 notification that immediately caught his attention. A Michigan graphic posted. The Wolverines had publicly welcomed him as one of their newest offers. Yesterday's offer suddenly felt real. 8:41 a.m. breakfast downstairs. Most of New Heights was there. Guys were talking trash. Watching highlights from games that happened overnight. Arguing over who they'd rather play in the championship. Elijah was halfway through his food when one teammate slid into the seat across from him.
"How many offers now?" 13.
The whole table stopped. One kid nearly choked. The room erupted. 9:18 a.m. Team meeting. Coach Byers kept it short. The message wasn't basketball. The message was balance.
"Enjoy this. You're only young ones. Tomorrow we'll worry about the championship."
The team was dismissed. Players scattered again. 10:04 a.m. Elijah headed to the gym. Not practice. Just work. A manager rebounded. Elijah shot. And shot. And shot. Mostly threes. Corner. Wing. Top. Repeat.
For almost an hour. Because every coach in America had seen the same thing. The versatility. The rebounding. The passing. The toughness. Now they wanted to see the jumper continue developing. 11:11 a.m. While getting shots up, his phone lit up again. Kansas. The meeting was happening. Today. Not over Zoom. Not later. Today. The Jayhawks had an assistant already at the event and wanted face-to-face time. That alone told Elijah how serious they were becoming. 12:23 p.m. lunch with teammates. Nothing recruiting related. At least not initially. The conversation somehow turned into which college uniforms looked best. A 30-minute debate followed. Nobody agreed. 1:36 p.m. Kansas. The meeting lasted almost an hour. It wasn't a sales pitch. Not really. It felt more like a vision presentation. Film clips. Development plans. Where they saw him fitting. How they viewed his versatility. When it ended, Kansas still didn't offer. But something important happened. Elijah left feeling like they had a genuine plan. And for someone who values fit as much as he does, that mattered. 2:58 p.m. Back at the hotel. Another surprise. Houston. The same school that had quietly entered the picture yesterday. The staff spent nearly 20 minutes talking basketball. Defense. Winning. Culture. Toughness. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't nil-heavy. It was basketball. And honestly, Elijah liked that. 3:41 p.m. The first school officially cooled off. UNC. Not completely. Not gone. But Elijah's camp learned the Tar Heels were pushing harder for another wing target. The interest remained. The urgency didn't. Recruiting works like that sometimes. Not every story ends with an offer. 4:26 p.m. Then came one of the more interesting conversations of the entire recruitment. Alabama. The message was honest. Almost brutally honest. We love the versatility. We love the competitiveness. We need to keep evaluating the perimeter shooting. No games. No false promises. No sugarcoating. Just honesty. And oddly enough, Elijah respected it. 5:14 p.m. Light team workout. Nothing intense. Just movement. Recovery. Rhythm. Preparation. Coach Byers spent extra time with Elijah after practice. Not talking recruiting. Talking basketball. Talking about tomorrow. Talking about responding after a loss. 6:47 p.m. Dinner. Family again. This time the conversation was different. Not where he wanted to commit. Not rankings. Not NIL. Just life. The first time in days recruiting wasn't the center of the conversation. And honestly, it was refreshing. 8:03 p.m. Back in the room. Tournament streams on. Potential championship opponents playing. Elijah was half watching. Half scrolling. Then the phone rang. Gonzaga. The conversation lasted nearly 40 minutes. Longer than expected. Much longer. Development. Player comparisons. Culture. Winning. The Bulldogs made it very clear. They weren't casually interested anymore. They were recruiting. Hard. 9:31 p.m. The biggest surprise of the day. Not an offer. A ranking prediction. A respected recruiting analyst released updated projections after the event. Elijah was projected at number 19 nationally. Not official, but close enough to get attention. For the first time, people weren't asking if he'd become a 5-star. People were debating when. 10:52 p.m. The championship matchup was finally announced. The waiting was over. Tomorrow, there would be one final game. One final chance. One final national stage. The team group chat exploded immediately. Messages. Memes. Predictions. Trash talk. Everything. 11:44 p.m. The hotel slowly got quiet. Recruiting messages continued. Coaches checked in. Schools watched. Analysts talked. But Elijah finally put the phone down. Tomorrow wasn't about recruiting. Tomorrow wasn't about rankings. Tomorrow wasn't about offers. Tomorrow was about basketball. And somewhere across the country, more than 20 college staffs would be watching